We are being joined by Sergej Sumlenny, who's a defense expert and also a director at the European Resilience Initiative Center in Berlin. Mr. Sumlenny, thank you very much indeed for joining us here in WION. Now, let me in fact begin by asking you, with these pretty dramatic developments that have taken place where the Wagner Chief, it appears, is staging an open mutiny against the Russian military leadership. But the question that needs to be asked is, even though Yevgeny Prigozhin has gone on record and has said that he's not trying to stage a military coup, but in terms of what his actions are and in terms of how his mercenaries are being moved, it does appear to be a mutiny.
For having invited me today. It is indeed amazing, stunning events which are happening in Russia, and clearly the Russian political leadership and the Russian nation now harvests the violence they sowed for years, and they're about to taste their own medicine. Well, both sides accuse each other in mutiny and betrayal. If you listen to the statements by Prigozhin, he says that the Minister of Defense betrayed their own soldiers and even shelled them. And the Russian Ministry of Defense says that Prigozhin has betrayed his military oath. And here we need to say that it was created by the Ministry of Defense pretty deliberately, the situation when the Wagner groups are not a part of the military.
Right.
From this perspective, they cannot organize any mutiny, any rebellion, because they're not military personnel. They have not served in the army. They have not give oath. So this is legally is of course it is not interesting for analysis. How does it look from the point of view of the legal perspective? But what is interesting, the velocity, the speed with which Wagner Group gathered control over Rostov, over Voronezh, and now heading to Moscow. The level of violence which Wagner Group provided against the Russian army, they have already shot down at least 3 Russian helicopters and at least 2 Russian planes, one fighter jet and 1 transport plane. So this is the group which was created by the Russian Ministry of Defense in order to escape any responsibility for the actions of these mercenaries, which were de facto under control of the army. And
right.
They have armed them with all possible equipment, including anti-air systems, including jets, including tanks, including infantry fighting vehicles. And now this mass of the people are moving to Moscow, which is already the development which Russia has not seen since over 100 years.
Absolutely.
There were some insurgencies on the ethnic-dominated suburbs of the empire, but never in the Russia-dominated center of the empire. So this is a pretty new development. I personally believe that Prigozhin could not organize something like that on his own. Of course, he is a skilled manipulator and a good organizer, and he is totally respected by his army and
right.
his troops. But he couldn't organize that sort of that full-scale invasion de facto of Russia without being backed by at least some FSB guys or military guys. He also took control over the headquarters of Russian Southern Military District in Rostov.
Mr. Sumlenny, if I can just interrupt there. Now, all of this is according to estimates. It's being said that at this moment, Yevgeny Prigozhin, at his command, has got about 25,000 Wagner mercenaries. That is the number of soldiers or fighters or mercenaries, whichever way you want to describe them. Now, how much of a challenge can he actually pose to the professional Russian army? Because quite clearly what is happening at this moment, it does appear, is that at least a part of those Wagner mercenaries are marching towards Moscow. How do you think this will play out?
Well, I would say that the biggest power of Prigozhin is not the number of his troops. Even if he has first 25,000 are not all skilled fighters. There are a lot of freshly mobilized inmates. They are not very good soldiers. But and of course the Russian army has much bigger capacities to attack these columns, with all the strategic aviation bombing, with missiles, with rocket artillery. The Russian army, if wanted, they could destroy this column of Wagner troops. The question is different. The question is if the Russian army is ready to fulfill this order.
Right.
if the Russian army is ready to kill Wagnerites. We have seen that the Wagnerites have seized control over Rostov, within Rostov-on-Don, a huge city in the south of Russia. and the headquarters of the Russian military command in the south within a couple of hours.
Absolutely.
They have took control of a Millerovo air base. They have took control of a Voronezh air base, Voronezh military base.
Correct.
They're moving to Moscow now without actually facing any resistance. And this is maybe because the Russian army is not so willing to attack Wagnerites.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.